Normally when I work, I have 4 different utensils in my hand. They will vary depending on what my needs are at that specific time, but usually it's these 4. So a lot of times what I will do when I'm starting to block something out is I will go ahead with my paintbrush and I'll dip it into my PanPastel. A lot of people like to use sponge tip applicators, but I like to use more of my PanPastel. And at this point, I'm just blocking out his basic shape. So I'm trying to target where all the lowlights are and where all the highlights are. And this one actually has quite a few lowlights in it. It's a very dramatic drawing. Or, I mean, it's a very dramatic photo. Kind of comes across like that. Okay, I feel like that's a pretty good basic shape. I'm gonna kind of dust away some of the remnants. Now I'm gonna kind of go in, and that's okay. Like, you'll get fallout like that a lot, and that's okay. A lot of times I'll just kind of blow it away, but you want to be really careful when you do something like that because you don't want like spit or anything to get on your drawing. It's a little right there, a little highlight there. So you can see I'm not trying to be precise with this at all. I'm giving myself reference points on where I know I need to hit. So once that is finished and I have a pretty good idea of where I want everything, I will then start using my tools. I'll start using my pencils. I don't know why I said tools. But then now is where I actually will start blocking out the actual This is where I'm going to start fine-tuning. I will start to see where my blocking maybe ended too soon. And because this is such a dramatically dark, or I guess darker piece, I'm not going to use as much of the white as I normally do. Actually, there are a lot of parts where you can't tell when something begins or ends, which is fun, but it doesn't necessarily always translate that well. So, excuse me. I constantly find myself fine-tuning things until I give up or I'm finished. There's never a point where I stop thinking something might look off. Okay, and then I'll realize that I maybe should have blocked a little bit more highlight up here to make more of a contrast where the eyebrow stops. So I'll go back in. The great thing about charcoal is that you can, I mean, for the most part, you can keep blending. And I think that's why I like watercolors so much. Well, actually, I guess that's the complete opposite of watercolor. So I really don't know why I like watercolors so much. So I'm switching to my smaller brush because the larger brush was moving too much around. So I wanted to be a little bit more accurate with where my blending started to come in. Okay, so this is the initial placement where I think everything should go. And now I'm going to actually start detailing. So this is when like the fun part starts that I really, really enjoy doing. Okay, so a lot of times with the actual eye, I will create my own image within the eye, but for this sake, I'm just going to go ahead and do what's here. I'll dramatize it a little bit, making it a little bit bigger than what it's supposed to be, but I'm going to start carving out more of the eye. And you'll notice whenever I'm moving my pencil, I'm moving it in the direction of how the surface is going. So for this section, I'm not going to like just start scribbling. I mean, I did when I was laying down the value, but now that we're doing the detail part and I want it to appear very smooth and glassy, I'm going to make it as smooth as I can while I'm laying it down. Right. More blending. So at this point, I'm starting to take a look at how the shadows are laying down and like what direction they're going in. So I'm not just creating lines, but I'm trying to create the actual texture at this point too. This is like the fold of his crease. And you'll also notice I keep hopping around to different values and like different points of the piece. And so now I'm just going in and adding more of the texture that I'm seeing in the photo. Okay, and now it's time for the part that kind of helps tie it all together, and that's for creating the actual cornea and pupil of the eye. Messi's eyes in this photo are incredibly dark, so I'm going to keep it to what the photo looks like. But if I were drawing this as an entire portrait to sell, I would probably use several reference photos of what his eyes look like under different lights and pick and choose what I would want. Okay, and now some of the lashes. It's getting there, but it doesn't quite have that glassy look that I really like. So I'm just going to sharpen up some of these whites. Oops. And you'll get breakage with your, at least I do, I get breakage with my pencils a lot. The great thing about charcoal that I love is that I rarely ever have to use an eraser unless I'm doing reduction. Because you can really just go over the areas with the opposite pencil and clean up your line work. Okay, now there's still a little bit more dimension like within the eye that I'm missing. So I'm going to try to strengthen that just a bit. There's like a little flap of skin here too. It's really weird too, because after you finish a drawing of a celebrity or for a commission or a loved one, you honestly feel like you know them just a little bit better because of the intensity that you're studying their face. It's really weird. Okay. I think we're about ready to call this demo good. One thing I did not really convey very well were some of the folds of his skin. They look a little bit more like eyelashes, but I think this comes down just a little bit more here too. Carve out I'm going to now create a little bit of areas where the hair would naturally go over the skin with the eyebrows. Oops. All right, so that's kind of my quick demo about how to, or not really even how to, but how I like to blend and draw. Yeah, so,